Welcome to Creative Tien channel. Today I'm going to machine knit a scarf that's also wearable, and it's a very simple design. I'm going to use LK150 knitting machine and worsted weight yarn. After some sample and calculation, here's my design. I will have 3 pieces, one in the center, and you can open here. And we'll do some mark ribbon. So that's the center part. Basically, it's a rectangle with some ribbon on 2 sides. And for the sleeves, it's also a rectangle, but with ribbon on 1 side. And I'm using the mark ribbon because it's faster. But you can use the hand manipulated ribbon, or you can hand knit the ribbon after you're done with the square. So it looks very simple, and I have my dimension here. It's about 20 inches wide, 17 inches on the sleeves, and about 9.5 inches wide. And because we are folding it in half, so it's double of that when we knit. And I'm using the highest tension on the machine. It's tension 9. And based on my swatch, it's about 4.25 stitches and 5 rows per inch. And I'm going to start from the center. I have around 85 stitches. And here is a little sample. I need every other needle for 12 rows and then fold in half. So this is about a little bit more than 1 inch for the ribbon. It's just 1 by 1 ribbon. So I pull out from left 43 until the right 42. So it's every other needles and totally 85 stitches. And I just start with simple E-rub cast on, and I'm going to knit 12 rows for the mark ribbon. And for the tension, I can make it a little bit smaller. I will have tension 8 for the ribbon. And for the main tension, I will keep it 9. Now we'll put some weight and knit 12 rows. Now after 12 rows, I will take off all the weight and hand it back to the empty needles. After hand everything back to the empty needles, I place some weight and I'm going to knit 1 row. The first row is kind of tricky to knit, so I'm going to move all the needles out to the D position. And I'm changing my tension to 9. And if this row is difficult to knit, you can just do it by hand. I just take the yarn off the carriage and place it in the hook and then pull it back. Now 1 stitch is knitted, and I will repeat that. Place it in the hook, pull back. Because our yarn is pretty thick, that's why we knit it by hand. Now I finished this row. According to my design, I'm going to need 85 rows, and then we'll do the mark ribbon again. So I adjust the row count to 000 and start knitting 85 rows. Now I have 85 rows. Here is mark ribbon, and I'm going to do a matching mark ribbon here. So the first I have to move it to every other stitch. So I'm using my transferring tool and just move every other stitch to the next and move the empty stitch to A position. Now we move the stitches to every other needles. We are going to do the mark ribbon again, so we need 12 rows. For the tension, I changed to number 8, so it's a little bit tighter. Now I finished the 12 rows. That's the mark ribbon. I'm going to cut the yarn and use a yarn needle to sew it up back to this part. That's the starting of the mark ribbon. So make sure we cut about 3 or 4 times the width of the whole garment. And then I will thread the yarn and start binding off. So first I'm going to take off the stitch on the needle. Take off the extra weight. And then find the first row of the mark ribbon. And just sew it through. This is the first one. And then take off the second stitch from the needle and sew through the second stitch here. And we just keep going until the end. That's after taking off the machine. So we can fold it like that. It's better to have some steaming first to block it so it doesn't curve. So that's the center part. Next I'm going to make sleeves. It's the same way. We start with the mark ribbon, 12 rows with half of the stitch every other needle. So 80 stitch every other needle will be 40 stitches. And you will be around left 40 to right 40. And then need 12 rows and fold it up. After that, you just have to knit the length of the sleeves. And since I don't have enough yarn, I will just do half of the size. Instead of 80 rows, I will do 40 rows. So it will be short sleeve. It's not long enough as a scarf, but it's still wearable. So I add 1 stitch on the left side. So that's from left 41 until right 40. And we'll do the same way, do 12 rows of mark ribbon and then hand it back to the needles and continue knit 40 rows. That's my revised. So I will only have half the size. It will be half sleeves. And I will do 2 of that and I will show you later. Here we have the 3 pieces knitted. This is the center piece with a ribbon on the top and bottom. And this is a sleeve piece. So next we just have to assemble it. And for the center piece, I'm going to fold it like that so the opening is in the center. I will give it a steam later so it doesn't curve as much. And that's the sleeves. I just fold it down so the seam will be in the bottom. You can also do it with the seam in the center so it matches the center. But I like the seam on the bottom. And the left side is the same. So the next, we just have to sew up the seam and sew up the seam here and here and here, and that will be done. Thank you so much for watching, and see you next time.